I made this post, and there were some folks that had some questions about it, so I figured I'd go ahead and do a video and elaborate. If you don't remember the post, it was this post right here where I said, pro tip, if you truly are independent in business, don't try to simply replicate the methods of the established big corporate entities. Their methods benefit them the most, and you are not going to get anywhere near their level by playing a game that is rigged to their behalf. You'll be on the hamster wheel. However, doing it a different way is a good thing. You now have the tools to tailor make your strategies to your own business models, which includes upgrading where the old guard has failed to do so. Use this to your advantage. Now, what I mean by that, just to elaborate just a little bit, is I know a lot of people look at the established brands, and if you are independent in that scene and you're doing something that is akin to that industry that these established guys are already in, you want to like duplicate what it is that they've done because you're under the impression that, well, they did it and it worked for them, or that's just the standard and you can't see any level of success unless you go do the same thing it is that they did. The problem with that line of thinking is that, for one, it doesn't take into consideration some of the technological changes, as well as it doesn't take, and this is the most important part, it doesn't take into consideration that they're playing a different game and by different rules than you are. I'll use this as an example. I'm a comic book publisher, okay? And sure, there's a standard from how to make comics to them getting put out and how, let's say, the big two in America with Marvel and DC and how they generally do things. And it might, well, I mean, some can argue that it's not working for them when you consider the decline in unit sales over the last years. But just on a serious note, it's, even if we consider that they were where they're at is where they're at, where they produce X amount of comics, they sell amount of comics, and you just want to be successful in this industry. The way that they do things from the distribution model, where it used to be just one company with Diamond, now it's Penguin Random House and Lunar's in the deal, and they don't distribute their own comics at all. Marvel and DC don't. A lot of people don't know that. People think that they're printing them and they don't understand how retailing works or anything. But how it works is you have retailers that are buying from the distributors that are buying from the, getting the printed comics from the companies of Marvel and DC. So you're not actually the customer to Marvel and DC in a sort of way, because maybe the pre-orders that the retailers have, in some way you are, because, you tell your local comic shop you want this, they're more incentivized to have that on the pull list and buy those comics and all that. While I totally get and I empathize and I understand that, because it's not necessarily, let's say, incorrect that it has a level of influence. It's not the influence because they're not selling to you. They're selling to a distributor at most, retailer at best. So once they've already sold it, this is why they do like the incentive variant thing, which is that makes zero sense for a company like myself, but it makes sense for them because they have pimped all of these. Retailers. They pimped all these retailers into thinking that this is a good idea. Hey, you buy X amount of copies, we'll give you one variant, special variant. And you can then sell that for extra money. So that's their model. It works for them. And because they are the top dog, they control everything, and for the most part with the market value. Well, it works for them. And it benefits them. But for a company like me, that makes no sense whatsoever. I would derail my company. People aren't going to be as willing to give a smaller company, the benefit of the doubt, to where you have sort of, I'm not going to say predatory business practice, but you're really taking advantage of these retailers they can't exist unless they give you money, right? Unless they buy the product. That makes no sense for me to do that. And people would tell me to go screw myself in the event that I did anyway. So that in itself doesn't make sense. For example, another is with like how I produce. Not everything's different. Or a lot of things are different. But also, like I say, it's a phrase, and I didn't make it up, but the game is to be sold, not told. This is another thing. Marvel and DC, their comics are just like, because they're tied to mega corporations. That is not the most important aspect. It's like an IP for them right now. That's not their most important aspect. So they may use the books to sell something else or things of that nature, right? Their entire business model isn't centered around. Whereas if you were an independent comic book creator, that's probably your baby. You're going to be your primary source of income for your business. Is going to be, as an independent, the comic books. So, if you don't push books, you don't have any business. There's no revenue to be brought in or generated. So for them, though, it makes a lot of sense to be, to give. First of all, they don't really give a lot anyway. But for example, when they're trying to sell to the previews, and they'll try to sell that to, let's say, a retailer or distributor or whatever, and a lot of stuff is not lettered, and so there's that. But they're able to give a lot more. This is why maybe a digital copy or digital, and I know there's some people that are going to disagree with me, or having like digital full of the OG art just put out there and plastered on there. Well, they're pushing it in a certain volume that allows them to do that. Whereas to you, that may not make sense for you. It certainly doesn't make sense for me to just be giving out everything digital for my customers. Definitely in the age of piracy, that makes no sense whatsoever, and that could actually derail my business. So I give enough to the audience to allow them to make a respectable, knowledgeable purchase. Okay. And I give them enough, but not so much to where I'm just giving everything away, right? Because again, the game is to be sold, not simply told. Give them enough, get them enthusiastic, give them something to get enthusiastic about, and that's on you as a creator to do that. You can't. There's no skipping the line in that. You can't fake the enthusiasm. Give them something to get enthusiastic about, and but not so much to where like you're giving the entire book away. And I see some people like in the independent scene where I think that maybe that's just not, and maybe that works for certain, and that'll bring me to my last point in a little bit. That maybe works for certain people, but I can see where that doesn't work for a lot of you, where, hey, this is everything. I haven't even put it for sale yet. Here's everything. And maybe it benefits to people that want to see the process of stuff, but maybe to a lot of folks that they're like, you're giving away too much. Now, going back to the point though, there's not one way to do things. That's old and archaic. Everybody's trying to catch up with technology. It's a new day and age. That's why there's no movie stars anymore for the most part in Hollywood, because things have changed. Okay? So that is where you have an advantage. Just because everybody else or the bigger dogs are doing it one way does not mean you have to do it one way, the same way. You could do it in a way that's far more beneficial and something that your company will thrive off of, and it makes sense for your brand. Do that. Don't be afraid to do that, even if it's different. Hell, even if it's nobody else doing it, because only you, and this is the benefit of the direct line of sight that you have the audience, only you can determine that. Y'all can determine that as an audience and customer base, as well as the business owner. So if it makes sense for the audience that you're trying to cultivate, well, do it that way instead of, well, that's not the way that the big dogs do it, because that doesn't benefit you. Doing it the way the big dogs do it, like I said, you're not going to beat them. You cannot beat them at a game that they made. You simply cannot do it. It's stupid. So try to make the game tailor-made to you. And like I said, it's not to say everybody's going to be a mega corporation. Hell, I think the day of the mega corporation is over. In entertainment, or let's say it's not over, but it's declining, because, with the means being more decentralized, like doing something like what I did with the Riververse is absolutely unheard of years ago. To do what I did, no investors and anything, that's because, well, even the power of the internet, direct line of sight with y'all. I don't have to go through all these other channels. That's why some people are mad, because I didn't go through these channels. So the means are decentralized. Because of social media, you have a direct line of sight with your audience. Tailor make it for them and their experience. Their experience you want to give them, an experience that they want to have. But from the business efforts, stop trying to replicate what everybody else is doing, particularly the guys that have a pool of money that you will never have access to. Because that game benefits them. And then, like I said, even with the comic books, they're playing a different game than what you are. Keep that in mind. If you enjoyed this video and want to support other content, please become a member at ericdjuly.com. This is my own unique platform that replaced my Patreon. Our Ultramax, which is our highest tier, gets free shipping domestically even with Rippaverse orders, and are able to redeem the Creators Edition copy of ISOM #1. You can move up and down tiers or cancel at any time. Also visit Rippaverse.com. This is my comic book company that launched a $3.7 million campaign. We appreciate your support.